things that I find so interesting that you're bringing up is the political nature of Zionism. I mean, it used to be you could be a Zionist and it didn't really matter what your politics were, what you thought in terms of political areas in the United States or policies in Israel. But now what you're suggesting is really all about your political viewpoint. Is there any way to separate politics from Zionism, or is that what it's all about now?
It's getting more complicated, right, because of this prophetic and protective, right? What do we do when the Trump administration has come out so fervently in support of Israel, against the Iran deal, right, checking all the boxes of what it means to be a Verbrennte Zionist. But at the same time, whether it's associations with the alt-right or other issues which are of classical Jewish concern, refugees and otherwise, when you see your political views coming and clashing one with the other, and it's not easier on the other side. Another protesting group outside of AIPAC was, I don't remember the exact chant, but it basically was, "Hey ho, all the walls have got to go," meaning if you don't like Trump's policy about the wall with Mexico, then how can you like the policy regarding regarding Netanyahu and Israel and a security fence, right? And this has happened in Ferguson. This has happened in other progressive liberal causes. That there's been this sort of jumbling up where it's hard to be. And I wrote this in another piece in the Jewish Week, both a liberal in terms of my progressive causes and a Zionist all at the same time.
I want to explore that a little bit more, but I want your sense of this. Is there a way to divorce politics from Zionism?
These days, I suspect there's not. And I think nobody has a monopoly on what it means to be a Zionist. Nobody has a monopoly on how to express that support for the State of Israel. But when I say nobody has a monopoly on it, means, you know, people who express it through a political tradition that probably you and I share and that I certainly identify with as Rabbi Kosgrove wrote about it, shouldn't feel the least bit sheepish or embarrassed or apologetic or that there's any conflict. And I think you've tried to capture this, that it is not just possible, it's definitionally appropriate to have liberal values and Zionist values intersect very closely with one another. Of course, the establishment of the State of Israel, the fulfillment of that century's dream and that actualization of self-determination for the Jewish people, something I think that unites Zionists, whatever their politics are, and the sense of humility that you wrote about, that we have to realize that there are major risks and threats, and we Zionists in the diaspora don't experience them the same way Israelis do, who have to live with them and defend against them in their own way. And that sort of impulse of protection, which is articulated by American politicians too, and I'm very happy. And there isn't a significant difference between this administration's policy on protecting Israel at the UN or on standing up for Israel in other international forums or its legitimacy. This is also of long-standing, and thankfully so. I've worked very hard to ensure that's the case. There are other voices creeping into the debate in our party, and you know, we can maybe talk about that. But that protective impulse, I think, is critically important. But the same impulse of ensuring that this miracle, this gift, this jewel that we in our day and age, after the centuries of exile, get to experience, which is a sovereign state of Israel, state of the Jewish people in the historic homeland of the Jewish people, and that same impulse of protecting it and not seeing it lost, I think, lies behind what we'll call liberal Zionists, for lack of a better term, bring to the table when they say, if we don't help Israel, if the United States does not help Israel, if we as a diaspora Jewish community don't help Israel, take those hard decisions, recognizing there's nothing that absolves Palestinians about their responsibilities, and they have not been a reliable partner, and they have difficulty making the decisions they must make, and the region is a mess, and it's unstable, and that poses risks. But that at least we want to work with our Israeli partners to make sure that the two-state solution, which will preserve a Jewish and democratic state, and it's the only way most people can understand to preserve a Jewish and democratic state, that at least it's kept alive. At least they continue to search for it. At least they don't do things that make it harder to get there later, perhaps when the circumstances are better. That to me is a very Zionist thing a very Zionist position to take. It fuses, in my judgment, Zionist and liberal values, but in a way that I think is quite responsible, and it's of course shared by many Israelis.